You're listening to Dissecting High Performance in Tennis, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of the world's top coaches and tennis experts, bringing you actionable insights to elevate your coaching and impact. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, Adam here. I'm excited to share that I'll be speaking at the 5th edition of the World Tennis Conference, organized by the Sigal Institute and supported by the GPTCA. This is my 3rd year as a speaker, and each time I've been just as thrilled to learn from the best as I have to share insights on tennis coaching. The World Tennis Conference brings together world-class coaches and experts, making it a must-attend event for anyone serious about high-performance tennis coaching. Head over to worldtennisconference.org and use the coupon ADAM at checkout to get 10% off either the conference or the conference plus the club membership. Now, let's dive into today's episode.
Chapter 1. Setting clear roles and expectations. This chapter emphasizes the necessity of clarity in roles and expectations. It explains how to conduct the rough due diligence before committing to work with a player, including defining standards, non-negotiables, and boundaries before stepping on the court. Additionally, it highlights the importance of being prepared to decline a collaboration if necessary. Many coaching relationships sour over time due to miscommunication and disagreements. How can we minimize these risks in the long run? Alistair McCaw. It all starts with clearing expectations and defining the role of the coach and the role of the player. Those are the first things I start with before we step onto the court. These needs to be set first to ensure a clear understanding and agreement. Is it similar to a sales pitch? Kyle Lacroix. Relationships with players are key. They need to feel that it's relational, not transactional. I'm not trying to sell them on anything. I'm trying to find out who they are. It's not about presentations. It's about conversations. Through conversations, trust and rapport are built and maintained. So what should that conversation look like? Understanding needs, clarifying expectations, like laying the foundation for trust. It's about understanding, not convincing. Upfront clarity lays the groundwork for mutual understanding and agreement. What's the initial step in this dialogue? Steve Johnson Sr. I'll encourage players to ask me questions about their needs and expectations. What could examples of questions be? Carlos Rodriguez. Ask the player, why do you want to work with me? What are your expectations from me? As a coach, but also as a person. And for more experienced or high-level players, David Samuel. You need to have a battery of good questions, not just about tennis, but also about the person. What is your philosophy on coaching? What would be the first thing that you'd like to work on and why? So, if it's not just about the player, but also about the person, what's the next course of action? Jeff Coetzee. Understand what the person wants. Otherwise, you will never understand the player. There's no use if you as a coach want something different than the player. For a player and a coach to go forwards, there needs to be mutual understanding. If not, it will not work. We need to be upfront and honest with each other. I will put everything on the table. You don't want to bombard the player with questions, but grasping their essence and values resembles a question and answers session. Here are a few additional questions to include in your question battery. Chris Suter. Ask them about their background, their past motivations, current life stage, aspirations, and their personal life. Once the player has clarified their expectations for the collaboration, what's the next step? laying the groundwork, establishing roles, like ensuring that each wheel of a car works in harmony to keep it moving. Steve Johnson Sr. I explained to the player that if we take care of our individual roles, we will have the opportunity for the collaboration to be successful. If one of us doesn't do our job, it's like a flat tire. It moves, but not very well. I explain and clarify the player's role. The player's job is to show up every day with a great attitude. I want them to ask questions, work hard, and practice on their own. Then I walk the player through my role and responsibilities, like creating a long-term player development plan, executing the daily practices, and preparing the player to compete. I put that right up front the first day. I don't want there to be any confusion. I'd rather not start a collaboration than jump into something where I can't meet the expectations of the player or vice versa. Once the player understands both their role and yours, it's time to establish the foundation for a lasting coaching relationship. Alistair McCaw. A lot of times, especially in the tennis world, standards in coaching relationships aren't put out first. They are type of spoken about as you go along, and that is where miscommunication and disagreement often stem from. Defining expectations, setting standards and boundaries, like marking the edges of a field. Clear lines define the game. The most effective way to assist a player in the long run requires you to, as Robert Davis says, set your standards and non-negotiables. You can always ease up later in the relationship. A lot of young coaches are a bit too nice or too flexible and tell the player what they want to hear rather than what they need to hear. There are different philosophies, but you've got to be strong and firm in your philosophy. So what could those standards and non-negotiables be? Robert Davis continues. With older players, they know the little things. With younger players, I've tried to write it down and get them to sign it. It's things like hustling for every ball. I have a one bounce rule. If a player has a bad day on the match court, we're going to go back out to practice. It's not a punishment, but it's a way to get better. If you communicate your non-negotiables clearly before the first practice, before the first loss, and before the contract is signed, then the players usually respect them. You've got to be prepared as a coach because you're the leader. That's what the players are looking for. Otherwise, they wouldn't hire you. Are the non-negotiables the same for all players? Robert Davis answers. It depends on if you're starting with a player who's top 50 in the world or with a player with 10 ATP points playing futures. The lower ranked or the less experienced the player, the more the coach must be the CEO. For example, with Roger Rashid, who has coached players like Dimitrov, Monfils, and Tsonga, you're going to be a little more flexible with players like them, but you still have your non-negotiables. Starting with non-negotiables, doesn't that sound a little bit old-fashioned, Adam? Kyle Lacroix. I believe that there were a certain generation of coaches who were more dogmatic in their approach. While it is necessary for coaches to be strict and stern when it comes to technique and the geometry of the court, there are other aspects where you have to loosen the reins a bit and understand your player's personality and preferences. But is it possible to have clear standards and non-negotiables while maintaining adaptability? Kyle adds, it's important to establish clear boundaries and expectations for your players. There's a line that can't be crossed, and it's important to communicate where that line is and what those standards are, based on your relationship with each player. Where the line is depends on the player and the situation. At the Pro Tour, coaches are employees of the player. So it's important to work together and establish a good working relationship. At a club level, coaches are usually in charge. Regardless of the level, clear boundaries and expectations established from the beginning minimize issues down the line and optimizes the opportunity of building a successful relationship with your player. Choosing to collaborate, making informed decisions, like choosing a traveling partner. Shared values are essential for the journey. With expectations, roles, standards, non-negotiables clarified, what's the next step in determining whether to proceed with the player-coach relationship? Being approached by a player eager to work with you is flattering. Tennis coaching is a service industry where most coaches find joy in helping people, regardless of age and skill level. Here is Nick Saviano on his core value. When I start working with players, I have one core value, which is at the center. It's a deep belief that when you work with people, it's a sacred trust. It's a sacred trust to the player, even when they're not old or mature enough to understand everything that's going on. You have a higher level of expectation and responsibility than just a typical transaction in business. You have a sacred trust with the parents. The parents can sometimes be challenging, but anyone who's had a child understand this is their precious little one, no matter what age or playing level they are currently at. They are entrusting you with their child. Start from that premise, then work your way out. You must always have that person's sense of importance in mind, and you feel that you have a responsibility to them. If you do, then you're going to be in a good shape. So it's a sacred trust with the parents. Is there anything else to be mindful of? Mark Sofolis. Players often see the coach as a father or mother figure. The players set you on a pedestal, so you need to be there for them. You have got to take care of them. Recognizing our responsibility in guiding not just a tennis player, but a person, someone's son or daughter, what's a vital element for fostering a lasting player-coach collaboration? Carlos Rodriguez. In life, not only in tennis, you can have different opinions. You can have different approaches to do or to see things, but that's not a problem as long as you have the same values. You will always have the possibility to work well together. When you don't have the same values, it's very difficult to go in the same direction. If someone doesn't respect me, or I for some reason don't respect the player, it's very difficult to move on in the relationship and the performance. That's why values are extremely important, because they determine the vision. If you and your player do not share values, it's extremely important to build some together. Finally, here's a brief list of questions viewed through an academy lens to help guide your decision-making process. Michael Tillstrom. When a player wants to come to the academy, first we consider whether we have the capacity and the resources to have the player. Then we think about what coach would be responsible and whether that is a good fit or not. Do we have players that will make a good environment around the player? We look at the individual and think about whether we can help the player at this point in time. I ask myself, can I help this player? Can I put in the work that is needed? Can the player accept the academy and my family? It's better to say no sometimes, no matter how much you want to work with a player, if it for some reason is not a good fit. Chapter Checklist. Your guide to setting clear expectations and roles. Chapter Checklist. Your guide to setting clear expectations and roles. 1. Identify player expectations. Determine what the player seeks and explicitly communicate how you can and cannot fulfill those expectations. 2. Define roles clearly. Outline what they can expect from you, what you expect from them, and detail each person's role. 3. State your standards. Communicate your standards, non-negotiables, and boundaries upfront. 4. Remember your responsibility. Recognize that the player is someone's child and may see you as a parental figure carrying significant responsibility. 5. Aligning values. While differences between coach and player are natural, shared values are essential for long-term success. 6. Know when to say no. Be prepared to decline if the fit isn't right. Once roles and expectations are clarified and a solid foundation is established, it's time to cultivate a connection. The next chapter delves into the importance and methods of connecting with the player you're coaching.
That's it for today's episode. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you about the World Tennis Conference hosted by the Segal Institute and supported by the GPTCA. I'm honored to be speaking for the third time, and I can tell you firsthand, it's an unmissable event for any coach looking to sharpen their skills and learn from some of the best minds in tennis. Make sure to sign up at worldtennisconference.org and use the coupon ADAM to get 10% off your registration, whether you're signing up for the conference or the conference plus the club membership. See you at the World Tennis Conference.
Thanks for listening to Dissecting High Performance in Tennis. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and visit adamblicker.com for more coaching insights and resources. And hey, if you're looking to sharpen your coaching skills even further, grab a copy of Winning Words on Amazon. The ebook costs the same as a candy bar, so why not skip the sugar and invest in becoming a healthier, wiser coach instead? Order your copy today and unlock the distilled wisdom from the brilliant guests featured right here on the podcast. Together, let's minimize frustration and maximize impact.